We're switching it around a little bit this Sunday. We're doing our meditation after our Sunday conversation. Are you ready? So, here we go. You got some supplies when you came in, right? Raise your hand if you did not get a piece of paper and something to write with. Okay, wiggle it up here if you did. Okay, now again, raise your hand if you didn't. Okay, our ushers are going to bring something by if you did not get something to write with. But you need something to write with, and you need a piece of paper. And we didn't have a ton of markers. I wish everyone had a marker. But if you have them in your bag, your man bag or your purse, your person bag, then go ahead and get them. But this is my little marker bag. We carry it around all the time now. All right, did everyone get one now? Is there still anyone that hasn't gotten it? Wave again, and I'll point them in their direction. Okay, and if you're on live stream, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, just make sure to get a piece of paper, and you can also use the chat room to answer these questions. So you can use the comment feed and the chat room, and that would be a cool way to do it if you don't want to do it on paper. And of course, if any of you are in the house, you're free to join the Zoom room and do that as well, as long as you keep it on mute. But you need those supplies for today. So today's going to just be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit experiential. Are you ready? Here we are. What I love about Unity is you can change it up, right? You can be present to what is. So, is anyone present to that we have an election going on? Okay, good. Now, if you're not, go out and vote. Unity would never assume that we have the right or the role to tell you how to vote, but absolutely encouraging you to vote. The Dalai Lama says the world is a spiritual democracy. You vote with your life. You vote with your life. So how we live our lives, right, is a vote. And also what we choose, what we share, you're important. It matters, right? Your voice matters. So consider that if you weren't considering it, right? It matters. You matter. We are on a spiritual journey, studying the book by Martha Creek called Presence and Potential. Experience your higher self and live in wholeness. And today, our topic of conversation is about casting a vision. It's about casting a vision, getting clear on our vision. Now, a lot of times there could be other things that get in the way of our clarity of vision, and sometimes we don't recognize the fullness of our spiritual potential when it comes to our vision. We tend to be human critters, right, that respond and react to everything at this biological level. I want this, I don't want that. Get that away, give me more of this, right? But we don't always recognize our spiritual potential, that when we have a mindfulness practice, when we have a deep practice, we can actually co-create along those lines, right? Now, think about Jesus, the master teacher, right? How much money did he have? Tell me about his marketing campaign. Tell me how many graphic artists he had on his design team. Tell me about the social media or the communication devices of the time. No, nothing. Tell me about the consciousness. Tell me about the consciousness of the peace walker, right? The Prince of Peace. The person who came with love in their hearts and taught people one-on-one by example, right? The Buddha has a similar story of sitting under the Bodhi tree. Well, actually, the Buddha was rich and all that stuff, but that's not how we know of the Buddha, right? We know of the Buddha when the Buddha released all of that and came into presence, came into the practice, right? So that's what we learn through spiritual teachers throughout time. And the message of Jesus the Christ is about our awakening, our collective awakening, right? It's about the awakening within, and it's about the collective awakening. And that comes through having a clear vision. But not just a vision that we have and we leave there. It's a vision that we live into. It's a vision that we're becoming. We must become it in order for it to have the spiritual infrastructure to last throughout time and to become dynamic and magnetic, right? To have its own sense of energy and force and presence in the world. When we do that, and when we do it in alignment with principle, in alignment with love, and in alignment with our source, right, co-creating a world that works for all, it is unlimited. It is magnetic. It is dynamic. It has a life of its own. A lot of people don't know this, but in Unity we teach denials and affirmations. And a lot of times people will affirm something and just say something they want, affirm something they want, right? Anyone have done that before? Anyone? Yes. You say, this is what I'm intending, whatever. Well, if I'm going to say, not that it can't happen, but I'm going to say I'm going to be a top NFL basketball player. Oh gosh, I did it, didn't I? Thanks, Ann. Ann said NFL basketball player. I'm guessing the NFL is not basketball. See, I'm good at telling jokes, but not the regular way. So a basketball player that's not in the NFL. I'm going to try that in NFL. No, okay. So you would laugh, right? You would be like, yeah, in some other realm, but not in actuality, right? Sometimes that's how we are with affirmations. We do something that's so airy-fairy, it's not based on truth. That is not an affirmation. That is called ice cream truck spirituality. It's coming through the neighborhood. I'll take this, I'll take that. There's something not grounded about it, right? But what is grounded is looking at all those desires, looking at what's underneath that, and finding the place where you can be aligned with truth, right? It is a friendly universe. I do not inherit disease. Healing and wholeness is my birthright. I live in a world of abundance. Absolutely. All those things, absolutely. I can live my life's desire. I can live from my heart. All these other things, yes, those are aligned with truth, right? And you hold a vision, but you say this or something better, right? But a statement of affirmation is meant to be based on truth. And truth isn't material, right? Truth is beyond form. So we have to get in tune with what is beyond form, and then move into that, and then apply those affirmations and those denials. So a denial isn't looking at something and saying that's not physically happening, that's not in the world around me. It's saying this has no power over me. That's not going to change my world. Nothing's going to change my world. Nothing from outside of me can generate the world within me. And if we are spiritual practitioners on a spiritual journey, living life with a spiritual lens based on spiritual principles and spiritual laws, we create from the inside out. We go directly to source, as Charles Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, said, direct to headquarters. We go to headquarters, we come in from the source, and we generate from there out. And when we do that, nothing's going to change our world as far as our vision from the inside out. Because we become that vision. We begin to live it. But what happens in the human condition so often is that we think we have a vision. Raise your hand if you think you know what you stand for. Right? You think you know what you stand for, yeah? Okay, open your credit card statements, friends. Right? Open your credit card statement and look at that pie chart. Look at that pie chart to see how much money you spend on what, in what areas, where, how, why, and whether or not that is in alignment with your vision, with the world you want to create, right? I would bet you none of us are there, even the most intentional of us, right? Because it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to shop in this day and age, to shop for anything, right? And we all shop for something. It's almost impossible to shop for something and not support something you're against. Truth. So what the world is calling for from us, and I really think it is going to be from the New Thought movement. It is going to be from people that know, whether it's the same name, because the Fillmores didn't create a religion. They created a practice that will work in any religion. They created tools that apply to anyone, anywhere. And I believe that that orchestra of people are what is going to create what traditionally is called the second coming, but what is the awakening within each person, the collective awakening. And it's because we're going to get clear on our spiritual, I'd say responsibility, but it's really our birthright, our spiritual birthright to co-create. So we have to get clear on our vision if we want to do that. And then little by little, piece by piece, some of you may be so bold to do it chunk by chunk and just really do an inventory, an inquiry, and look at where in my life am I supporting, fueling, co-creating that which I do not want to prosper, that which I do not want to have grow, that which I do not want to benefit, and where in my life am I investing, generating, and co-creating what I want? And then apply the spiritual practice, because we forget our divine birthright. And we get so caught up in just being a human and believing the illusion that life is just what happens to me. Believing the illusion that I have no control. Who feels like there are a lot of things they have no control over? And yes, of course that's true, right? But what do we have the power to influence? Right here. Right here. And we forget and we sell out on that. We sell out on that every time we invest in something we're not about. Every time we live by some other rules that are not our own, that are not really what we want to create from, not really what we want more of. And the power's right here. So it's time to recognize the power's right here. I had a rough go of it the last, I don't know how long, year, 2 years. And one of the things that I took on, and this is funny because I never would have done this before, but my brain had been in an interesting place, a place that I didn't really enjoy. And so I was working on breaking some kind of PTSD patterns, some issues when the mind's going places that you don't want it to go. You need to kind of recreate your neural pathways and recreate health and recreate positivity and recreate wellness. And it's funny because I took up coloring. Right? I got a mandala book and I started coloring, and the normal me, the old me, right, is not a colorer. Coloring is way too slow, way too quiet. Not a lot of places for all my ideas to start spinning, right? I even remember one time when I was out of college, and you would think if I was out of college, like right then, this might have been exciting. But I was dating a guy that was a musician and an artist. And we went over to his place one night, and he had another couple there, a couple of friends. And he had out like a little coffee table with tea. And this is like our big night, our big date night. And he had a coffee table with tea, and then he had like blank paper and coloring pages and markers and colored pencils and stuff. And I remember being like, oh, really? This is what we're going to do tonight? Like, I don't think I'm ever going to be a match for this. And we sat there, and I went with it, I'm always up for trying something on. But I remember just being like, okay, coloring takes a long time, and we're just so mellow right now. We're just coloring. But what I have found was that in this last couple of years, I had to try on every spiritual tool available to me. Everything. Breath work, mindfulness work, meditation, all of my practices. And what I found is that sometimes that practice of rewiring the brain through a creative activity is not only all you can do, but it is incredibly transformative as far as its simplicity, as far as where it can bring us, the portal, right? The portal. I needed to go through a portal, and something had to change. I needed to be sitting there, and I can even tell the difference. And this is so funny because I'm not an artist, but I can tell, and I bet an artist is just going to go, yes! I can tell the difference if I'm doing it with colored pencils or a marker. The colored pencils, it's a whole different brain experience. You go into a different place than if it's the marker. Now, they both have their place, but it's like I got to tune into which one is the one right now that I'm going to move with. So has anyone felt like, with this election coming up, with our country, our neighborhood, our world, our anything, fill in the blank, right? That there is any rewiring you would like to do with your brain. Stephanie is going to be offering a breath workshop. It is going to be free and open to the public. It is open to anyone. They don't have to be Unity. They don't have to be your same persuasion of voting. But it's through Rising Phoenix Breathwork, which is her organization. And she is going to bring us on election day through a spiritual practice of moving energy. Like, how many of us might be glued to the TV or glued to our anxiety, right? Or just checking out. Who already has a plan to go fishing, right? Mark, everyone look at Mark's hat real quick in the back there. If we could send the camera that way, he's got a fish hanging out of his head. But really, think about that. Think about what it would be for our community and beyond to come together on that day and do breath work. It's going to be over by the Labyrinth and in the Fillmore Chapel, depending on the weather. But I invite you to consider that, because we are here not to be thrown about, right? We are here not to be tossed in the wind, but we are here to be grounded and rooted in our practice. So if you're not feeling that right now, the universe needs your energy. The universe needs your support. The universe can benefit right now by you understanding and recognizing your co-creative power and stepping into it in a big way. So, do you have a vision for the world in your heart? For your community? For your family? For your greater world? For the United States of America? Do you have a vision of your heart, in your heart? And what does it look like? Who is it for? Right? That is a world within you. That's your vision. It's your hope, your longing. It's also sometimes takes the look of, that's not it. You know, you have your idea of what it's not, right? We've got a lot of ideas of what's not the vision. Can we get clear on what it is? And then can we apply the spiritual practice? That's really looking at our energy. And our energy is our time, how we're spending our time, our mental time, our physical time, our emotional time. It's how we're using our emotions. You know, emotions aren't just an effect. Do you know that? Emotions are not just an effect. Emotions are causative. That's a spiritual law, a spiritual principle. When we don't get that, we think emotions are an effect, right? Something happens, I respond, I have a feeling. But in a deep spiritual practice, we flip it around. I can have a thought that generates with the field of emotion that I feel in my heart, and it can be for something that's not even here yet, but that is part of demonstrating principle. That's part of living from the inside out, is getting in touch with something, getting in touch with it so clearly that it becomes alive for you. And it's not alive for you like it's, you know, oh, it's not actually existent out there. It's alive for you in such a way because it starts flowering in here. You're becoming it. It is part of your becoming. It is part of your deepest nature. But a lot of people on the spiritual path don't get that. And we get flung around by our emotions. So it's our energy, and it's also your senses, all of your senses. And putting them in a direction. And then it's action. We sometimes have a vision, but we are not aligned with it. We may say, I want a world that, but then unknowingly we are actually either generating the opposite, right? Contributing to the opposite. Or we think we want it. We think we want it. We think we know what we want. But we're checked out of the spiritual practice and principles. We're just underutilizing our resources and our capability. So this is not about what we think we want or what we say we want, but this is actually about what we are causing, creating, sourcing, therefore generating. One of the kind of blind spots that people often have is how they respond to what's going on around them and what's going on within them, right? How we respond. Because sometimes what we agree with or what we argue with, we generate, right? So we may have a habit and a practice of responding with resistance, of responding with anger, of responding with something that ties us in greater, right? I've had to look at my own life and look at the impact of things. If there is big energy around something, sometimes it doesn't matter if it's positive energy or negative energy. Does it have a big impact? Yeah. Sometimes the things that have negative energy actually have a bigger impact, don't they? Because there's more resistance there. There's more emotion there, right? There's intensity there. And that's fine. That's the human condition. But the spiritual condition is to recognize that and use it. Use it for the greater good of all. Use it for positivity. Martha Creek says in chapter 24, she says, develop a wide repertoire of responses. She says, I've noticed that we're patterned to respond to situations in our lives with less with responses and more with reactions. Very much like animals. We seem to have a limited repertoire of fight, flight, and freeze, and I would include fawn, with many different flavors of those three. To mature, to become higher, to get more equipped in responding rather than reacting, we need a more innovative response than these knee-jerk instinctual reactivities. And in fact, to become grounded in our spiritual nature, we need that. We have the opportunity. She says, especially when it comes to anger, and she invites us to have a broader response when we have that come up for us. She said, when it comes to our responses, we're patterned. We typically run on 2 or 3 tracks. We're predictable. She goes on to talk about how we have triggers and they're activated and how we can go through processes to deactivate them. And then she gives a few tools on that. But a lot of times we get caught in reacting and responding, and we don't look at as much at the shadow work, which is about unwiring triggers. It's about deactivating, and it's about becoming more conscious of our responses to anything. I was thinking if I had a time and a marketing team to have a campaign for this election, I would have had like pass on purple. Like, what would it be like if we went to the polls purple? What 2 colors make up purple? Thank goodness I got that one right. Red and blue make up purple. What if purple symbolized, I am voting for humanity? Like, you go in and you cast your vote wherever you're going to cast it, however you're going to cast it, right? But that was to symbolize, I'm voting for the greater good of all. I'm voting with my intention, and my intention is for the greatest good of all. I'm not doing this division stuff. I am totally aware and totally understanding the truth that there are people in every aspect of thought and mind that have some of the same visions and goals of me. Sure, there's a lot that's different. But I want us to think about right now, just think about someone who loves you or who you love, okay? That is not voting the same way as you, or not voting, whatever. Something that you might use to drive you crazy or get you angry, right? Think about someone who is voting in a different way than you, that loves you and that you love, okay? You got it? Okay. Just breathe into that. I invite you to close your eyes just for a moment. Breathe into that. Now breathe into their intention. You know, that intention of love. Can you just for a moment feel that love? Let it be so real. Let it be so beautiful. It may be misguided sometimes. There may be things that frustrate you, but go to that part that you know deeply. Even go to something you adore, someone you adore. Okay? Got it? Take a deep breath. That's the other side. That's just as much the other side as all the ugly that we see. And that's what we focus on. That's what we bring into the purple. The place spiritually, where our hearts are aligned on a soul level. And I invite you just in your own way to kind of namaste that moment, that person. Thank them for their love. We don't have to understand motives or ideas of how we get anywhere, but just appreciate that that is the person. Those people are the them. And that's your person. That's my person. And so it is. So we're here to expand our soul shine. We're here to power up our spiritual practice, to level up, to do the work, to do the shadow work, to claim our vision. So that's the next piece. Martha Creek talks about getting clear on our vision, having a clear vision. She says that having a clear vision means looking at what I'm doing. Looking at what I am doing. What am I contributing time to? She says, I invested time to really question who and what I wanted to be in the world, to see what legacy I wanted to leave, and to recognize which goals I have for my life that are actual and true, and which are adopted or adapted, handed down through my family, for example. I used the pause to make decisions that moved me in the direction of what was true for me. She talks a little bit about how sometimes our vision cannot be clear, and sometimes we don't move forward because it's not clear. Why else do we not move forward into our vision? Sometimes we think it's airy-fairy, it's not really possible. Sometimes we think we don't have the resources, but have you ever had the experience that actually as you move towards the vision that the resources come? Yes? The path opens up, that you don't always get all of the answers. You don't always know how it's going to end, right? But you are called to start moving forward, moving in, moving deeper. She says, be willing for a vision to be as clear as it is or get clearer over time. Keep your eyes on the vision. Keep going in that direction. Be aware of what you're well equipped and fully supported to do in navigating any of the winds between point A and point B as you move in the direction of your vision. So we're going to have some time together to vision now. I'd like to invite the band back. For this song, I'm going to lead us in a guided meditation, but first for this song, I'd like you just to get comfortable and feel the vision in your heart. You don't have to write anything down, but start thinking about your world. What is the world that's been born in your heart? What does it look like? Get as specific and detailed as possible, or get as broad as possible. You can take the things that trigger you, that bring you anger, frustration, fear, and let them lightly be there, but then flip them and move into the opposite. Move into what you want, not what you don't want. What I want, not what I don't want. And just feel the heart center. And during the music time, we're just going to do it in our hearts, our minds. And then after, during the meditation, I'm going to ask you to take out your paper.